Dear brothers and sisters, peace be with you. Let us take a moment of silence. Breathe in. Let the noise of the world grow quiet. Let the heart speak. There is so much talk of peace in our world today. Peace between nations on our streets, peace in our homes. But I ask you, have we made peace within ourselves? Because true peace, lasting peace, it begins not on a battlefield or at a table of negotiations. It begins in the quiet chambers of the heart. Dear brothers and sisters, peace begins with listening, not just hearing, but listening with the heart, with patience, with love. So often we live in a world full of noise. Everyone is speaking, but few are listening. We rush through our days, consumed by worries, distracted by screens, weighed down by responsibilities. We hear voices around us, but do we truly listen? Do we pause long enough to hear the quiet cries of those who suffer? The elderly man who sits alone on the bench, longing for someone to notice him. The child who speaks with timid words, afraid no one will care. The mother who carries silent burdens, waiting for someone to ask, "How are you?" And truly mean it. God is always speaking to us. But do we listen? He speaks in the whisper of the wind, in the laughter of a child, in the plea of the poor, in the silence of the night. He speaks in the heart of the migrant who leaves everything behind in search of dignity. He speaks in the voice of the prisoner who longs for redemption. He speaks in the sigh of the sick and the tear of the forgotten. If we do not listen, how can we know his voice? Jesus himself was a man who listened. He did not rush past the blind beggar on the road. He did not ignore the woman who touched the hem of his garment. He did not dismiss the cries of the leper calling out from the margins. He stopped. He turned. He listened. And in that act of listening, he restored dignity. He gave hope. He brought peace. When we listen with love, we are imitating Christ. We are saying to the other person, "You matter. You are seen. You are not alone." This is the first step to peace. It is not a grand gesture. It is not something only great leaders can do. It is something simple, something within reach of all of us. Pause for a moment. Who in your life needs to be heard? Who is waiting to stop you to stop? To turn, to listen. Maybe it is someone in your own home, a spouse, a child, a parent. Maybe it is a friend who has been distant, a neighbor who feels alone, a stranger who carries sorrow in their eyes. Maybe it is God Himself speaking in the silence of your heart. Let us not be afraid to listen. Let us not be too busy to stop. Because when we listen with love, peace begins to take root. It grows in our families, in our communities, in our world. And when we listen with the heart, we will hear the voice of God. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, peace grows when we forgive. It does not grow in the soil of resentment or take root in the hardened heart. Peace is born in mercy, quiet, often hidden, sometimes painful, but always life-giving. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not pretending that nothing happened. No. Forgiveness is deeper than that. Forgiveness is the decision to love even when it hurts. It is the courage to say, this wound will not define me. This pain will not become my prison. There is a man I once met, a father who lost his son in an act of senseless violence. The pain was unbearable. He said to me, I did not know how to breathe again. But one day, he looked at the picture of his son and said, I want to honor his life, not continue the cycle of hate. He chose to forgive, not to excuse, but to be free. And through that forgiveness, he found peace. Not the peace the world gives, but the peace that Christ gives. How many hearts are burdened with old wounds, silent grudges, unspoken anger? How many families are divided? How many friendships broken? How many churches wounded? Because someone could not say, I forgive you. A Jesus hanging from the cross did not curse his enemies. He did not cry out for vengeance. He said, Father, forgive them. This is not weakness. This is the greatest strength the world has ever seen. It is divine love poured out in human suffering. It is mercy that transforms the world. Forgiveness is not a single moment. It is a journey. Some wounds take time. Some may reopen. But each time we choose mercy, we take a step toward healing. Each time we say, I will not carry this bitterness, we open the door to peace. And this invitation is not only personal, it is social. A world without forgiveness becomes a world without peace. Where there is no mercy, there is no justice, only revenge, only fear, only violence. But where there is forgiveness, bridges are built, communities are restored, the poor are embraced, the stranger becomes a neighbor. So I ask you, gently but with loving, whom must you forgive? What would have you carried too long? What burden can you finally place at the foot of the cross? Do not be afraid. Mercy is stronger than pain. Forgiveness is not the end of justice. It is its beginning. Let us forgive. Let us choose peace. And in doing so, may we find the joy of hearts made new. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, peace lives in small acts of love, not in grand speeches, not in great displays of power, but in the humble gestures of everyday life. So often we look for peace in distant places, in big events or world leaders, but the peace of God, the peace that Jesus gives, it begins quietly, like a seed planted in the earth. It grows in the simple, often unnoticed moments when love is freely given. There is a woman who visits the sick every morning in a small, crowded hospital. She carries no title, wears no uniform. She simply walks room to room, offering her smile, a prayer, a hand to hold. She has no wealth, no fame. But in her presence, peace arrives, a peace that does not remove all pain, but reminds the suffering that they are not alone. This is love, and this is where peace begins. A young man, despite his own struggles, brings bread to his elderly neighbor each week. He knocks on the door, not just to deliver food, but to offer companionship, to listen. His visits last only minutes, but for the one who receives them, they are moments of deep human connection. This too is love, and this too is where peace begins. We must not underestimate the power of a small act done with great love. A kind word to someone who feels invisible, a visit to a prisoner, a meal shared with someone who has nothing. These are not small in the eyes of God. They are sacred. They are seeds of peace. Jesus did not walk among the powerful. He sat with the poor, the broken, the rejected. He washed the feet of his disciples. He fed the hungry with a few loaves and fish. He healed not by shouting from the mountaintops, but by touching the wounds of the sick and calling each person by name. This is how he brought peace, through love made small, love made real. Let us ask ourselves, what act of love can I offer today? Who near me is waiting for a gesture of care? What small thing can I do quietly, joyfully, that will bring the light of Christ into someone's life? Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do not think your offering is too little. Love is never wasted, and the peace we long for in the world begins when we dare to love in the smallest ways, again and again. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, peace is wounded when we forget the poor, when the most vulnerable are pushed aside, when the weak are silenced, when the hungry are ignored. Peace cannot grow. It is not enough to speak of harmony while others are suffering in silence. It is not enough to pray for peace while closing our eyes to those who live in poverty. True peace must be built with justice, and justice begins with remembering the poor. Each day we pass by people whom the world has forgotten. The man sleeping beneath a bridge, the mother counting coins in the market, trying to feed her children, the elderly woman left alone in a room with no visitors, Their faces may not appear in the news. Their voices may not be heard in the halls of power. But to God they are precious. To God they are first. How often Jesus reminded us of this. He said, "Whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." He did not say this in poetry or as a symbol. He meant it. When we look into the eyes of the poor, we are looking into the eyes of Christ. When we feed the hungry, welcome the stranger, visit the prisoner, we are touching his wounds. There is a village I visited once where a small community of families, though poor themselves, would share everything. A pot of rice would be divided among many, blankets passed from home to home. They had little, but no one was abandoned. No one was invisible. And where there is love like that, there is peace. But in many places, we build walls instead of tables. We become blind to the suffering around us, numbed by comfort, distracted by convenience. And in that blindness, peace slips away. Let us ask our hearts, do I see the poor? Or have I grown used to their pain? Have I allowed fear or indifference to close the door of my heart? Let us remember peace is not real unless it reaches the margins. If our peace excludes the poor, it is not Christ's peace. It is only a fragile illusion. So today, I gently invite you, go to those on the edges, listen to their stories, share what you can, and above all, love them. For in loving the poor, we welcome Christ Himself. And in welcoming Christ, peace will come. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, peace is a gift, yes, but also a choice. Each day, each moment, we are faced with this simple but profound question: will I be a builder of peace, or will I add to the noise, the anger, the division of the world? Peace is not passive. It is not a quiet surrender to comfort or a refusal to see what is broken. Peace is an active, courageous decision. It begins inside the heart and flows outward in our words, in our choices, in how we respond to those who hurt us and those who differ from us. In a small village, I met an old woman who lived alone in a humble home. Her hands were worn from work, her body frail with age. But every afternoon, she would prepare a meal for me, a child in the neighborhood whose parents struggled to care for him. She would say, "I cannot change the whole world, but I can offer this small piece to one soul." That is the choice of peace. That is the gospel lived in silence. When we are tired, when we feel misunderstood or provoked, when we are tempted to judge or lash out, that is when the choice becomes most difficult. And yet, that is also when it matters most. Do I respond with patience or with pride? Do I listen or do I close my heart? Do I choose love or do I choose to win the argument, to prove my point, to stand apart? Jesus chose peace, not in comfort, but on the cross. He could have answered violence with power, hatred with judgment, but he chose the way of mercy. He chose love, not because it was easy, but because it was right, because it was holy. This choice is ours too, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. Will we be sowers of division or instruments of peace? Will we build bridges or dig trenches? Will we curse the darkness or light even the smallest candle? Let's not wait for others to change. Let us begin today with a kind word, with a gesture of reconciliation, with a heart that refuses to hate. The world is longing for peace, but peace will not come unless it begins in us. So I ask you gently and with hope, what do you choose? Dear brothers and sisters, as we go forth today, let us carry the light of peace in our hearts and share it with everyone we meet. Let us be the hands that heal, the voices that comfort, the hearts that forgive. Peace is not just a gift, it is a responsibility, a call to each one of us to live with love and courage, to act with mercy and justice, and to build communion wherever we go. Remember, peace begins in our hearts, and it spreads through our actions. Every small act of kindness, every gesture of understanding, every moment of listening and forgiving, it all matters. And when we choose peace, we choose to live as Christ lived and to bring his light into the world. So I invite you to go with hope, go with love, and go with the strength that only God can give. May your hearts be full of peace, and may your lives be a testament to his mercy and grace. Good luck on this journey, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for choosing peace, and for being the change the world so desperately needs. Amen.